kind of spitting in the face of democracy, and it was like instigated by a tweet from the president.
Can I just, I'm going to just throw in my like anarchist thing. Like, I kind of wish they'd have just burned the fucker down.
Well, I would say the logic is how those people came to believe what they're believing.
Let's flip it this way. What if people were performing an insurrection, let's say, based on a principle that you believe in? Is that okay?
I've always been kind of vocal about saying, hey, we need to burn it down and start over again. You know, like, but I mean, agree. That's like, you know, that's a
burn it down is a metaphor.
Exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't actually mean like burning everything down.
Let's get ready to deep sink dive. Welcome to another kitchen sink microscopy. I'm Casey Rochford. And you should like and share and subscribe to the channel because we're a bunch of goofs and we're gonna make you laugh.
Well, yeah, the former I think is highly is definite, but the latter is questionable. We may or may not make you laugh.
Somewhere in our 100+ episodes.
Yeah, well, okay, that's
make somebody laugh.
Yeah, I guess you didn't give it a specific time frame, so yeah,
we'll and I give that the Men's Warehouse guarantee.
Oh man, Jesus! Oh, those ads. Anyway, I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and don't forget we write our own music, and it's available on iTunes and Spotify and other music listening places. So stick around to the end of the show, and you're going to hear hopefully a new song. And check out our website. It's ksmvidcast.com for news and information and more and updates and all that stuff. We've put a lot of work into it, and hope everybody appreciates that. As we also put a lot of work into this channel, even though we're we don't really make anything off of this, other than a good feeling, you know. So Casey, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, it's been a while since we've done like an actual like newsworthy story kind of current event, and there's all that stuff that just happened last week in the U.S. Capitol with the whole insurrection attempts, and I thought that there's a whole lot of different avenues to go down, like philosophically from that. Like, I mean, we can talk a little bit about the actual event itself, but, you know, for context, but I just have so many questions from that. Like, is insurrection a good idea? Like, ever? Is, you know, like, is that act of revolution, you know, is that something that we could actually justify in our lifetime, do you think?
Ooh, wow. I mean, that I don't think we have to really explain things to people like current events, because I'm sure
everybody living under a rock to not know about.
Yeah, and if you have been living under a rock and you happen to have internet access, I mean, you could Google that and find out exactly what happened in early-ish January of 2021. But yeah, ooh, man, that does bring up an interesting Well, so here's the thing: the foundation of this country, the U.S., in which we reside, is founded on revolution. The Revolutionary War is kind of the genesis of this. Breaking free from a king or a system or whatever and doing your own thing. And that's what they did. And it was kind of pretty clear if you read things like the Federalist Papers and stuff, that was expected on a regular basis. So it's kind of remarkable that now I wouldn't consider the thing that happened to be akin to that necessarily. I mean, we didn't have like thousands of people shooting guns at each other. That there's nothing along those lines. But the thing is, we've gone hundreds of years without such a thing happening, and the founding fathers, as people refer to them, expected that would happen on a regular basis, and that it was
level,
healthy.
though.
Well, on some level, maybe not that particular level, but that if things got corrupted enough that the people would get pissed off and change things. Now, the problem I see with that is that in the early days, in like the colonial days, the Revolutionary War days and stuff, there were very few people here, and it was a fairly simple system,
and it was an actual different continent even.
Oh yeah, yeah. They were across the Atlantic.
You could draw a very big fat line to show, this side versus that side, which we don't have the luxury of.
No, and even in
the future,
during the Revolutionary War, there were per capita fairly few participants. The actual people doing the actual fighting and things like that were few and far between. It wasn't like 99% of the people like busted out their doors with guns and started shooting at the redcoats and stuff like that. And it didn't actually go down that way. But my point, what I was saying before, it's like things have changed. This country is a lot different than it was hundreds of years ago. It's a lot bigger, for one. And a lot more diverse. It was very homogenous for the most part. I mean, you had the people who were native, and you had the people who came here from England or, I don't know, Portugal or France or something. I mean, there were kind of like a few people here and there, but it wasn't really a well-established system. You didn't have as much density as you do today. And so I don't think something like that is quite appropriate, like as far as like a national scale goes. I don't know if that even makes any sense now that I think about it. I should probably have some more beer.
I mean, so if it were like, Texas is always talking about seceding.
Well, Texas is like its own country, actually.
Yeah, that would be a situation that I think would be the most like akin to the American Revolution on a more scale.
Or maybe like Alaska or Hawaii or some of the other like American Samoa, or
I mean, it could be any state, I'm saying, as long as it's like you draw your imaginary lines and say we are going to declare ourselves as a different country or something. Like, I could see that being like, hey, we're fed up with the system. We don't see it changing. We just want to be our own sovereign thing. And then they'd probably get nuked anyway, but,
Well, actually, this is something I've thought about on a regular basis, because I kind of feel like we're going in the direction of like balkanization due to the complexity and almost like insurmountable differences between ideologies from a territorial standpoint, or I guess a geographical standpoint, right? Like, how do you reconcile that? And what if you're somebody, we both live in Washington State, which is has its own. I guess they call it a blue state, but I mean I don't really know what that means. I guess it's like the majority or whatever. So what if Washington decides to secede? Somehow, I mean, I don't know. Washington is not a person, so I don't know how it can actually make that decision. So, I guess the politicians or the voters or something, some kind of consensus on what to do, and it happens. Well, what if you're one of the people that doesn't agree with that, and you're like, hey, I've been living here for my family's been here for 100 years. I've been living in the same house. It's like multi-generational. I don't want to leave here. But
Well,
a
that's a
whole
good
bunch
point.
of people around me decided that like it's going to be different. That's kind of a
Yeah.
hard thing to deal with.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like we might be way far beyond a feasible like actual revolution that
Mhm.
results in more than one country at least. Just because yeah, like we've been here long enough that there's history now. You know,
Yeah.
we don't have like a new land to take over. The earth has basically been explored to its fullest at this
Except
point.
the ocean.
Yeah, but
Um,
and I think we've talked about that. Like, can you like claim a country on the ocean floor or something like?
or Antarctica too. That's another. There's actually an unclaimed slice of Antarctica. So, by the way, if you don't have a problem with the cold, like super frigid cold, that might be the place for you. If you just want to get away and start your own country or something like that. Yeah, like I think one of the problems I see is that things aren't, there are no borders of any real sort, right? Like the borders are online. They're ideological borders that aren't geographical. You don't have like a bunch of the same minded people in a large swath of land. You might have it in like a city or something. I mean, you could probably say like a particular city or a rural town might have a particular general philosophy or something like that. But, if you ask people and talk to them, I'm sure there would be differences that even they would disagree with each other. And yeah, like when you're talking about a country like the US that has hundreds of millions of people in it from all around the world, like this isn't, it's not like China where most people are kind of similar, like culturally and genetically and stuff like that. The US is full of people from all over the place.
Yeah,
Like I don't even, honestly, I don't even know what would make somebody an American. Like how could you identify an American genetically? You just simply can't, because they could be anybody.
yeah,
Um, and so as such, they could probably come with their own religion or philosophy or whatnot. And I don't know. And that's one of the things that's kind of cool about this country is like those people add to it. Like it's an additive synthesis, basically. Like people come from abroad and they bring their new ideas and they kind of like blend into the system, and then the system like blends into them, and like it's kind of a weird, like muddy rainbow, I guess. I don't know.
yeah,
Um, so I don't know. I don't think that like the idea of revolution, like, oh yeah, the whole entire country is gonna change, flip flop because of a bunch of people doing something. I don't think that's even
yeah.
possible.
Well,
Or
yeah,
like it's not even like it's a waste of energy because you can't do that here, I guess. I don't know if that even.
yeah. Like the other thing that um is my connection slow?
No, it's good. You're solid.
It's getting kind of choppy here.
You had a couple
Okay.
like skip
Anyway,
frames and stuff.
yeah, it says unstable here. So, Uh, the other thing that I'm really bothered by about the way this one went down, it's like fundamentally, I don't necessarily have a problem with, you know, kind of forcing the government to be like, hey, things need to be done differently. But the reason behind this one seems so petty and like anti-American. You know, it was like kind of spitting in the face of democracy, and it was like instigated by a tweet from the president. So it's like that whole thing just felt like a comic book or something. And
Well, can I just I'm gonna just throw in my like anarchist thing. Like, I kind of wish they'd have just burned the fucker down. Um, I'll just kind of preface all of this with that. That would have been nice. Um, yeah, I guess it's kind of a matter of perspective. Like, it, you have to look at like the philosophy of the people involved, like what is important to them and what are they fighting for. Well, you know, and if one thing's okay because you agree with it, and then another thing's not because you don't, well, that's logical inconsistency. And like, and that's okay. I guess it's fine for people to.
I don't know that it's logical inconsistency.
No,
It's
it
more
is
like,
because it comes down to like the action versus the philosophy. Like, if it's okay to do this because it's something that you agree with, then it should be okay for other people to do something that maybe you don't agree with, but it's the same like strong feeling to them. Although I do kind of think
well,
that
now,
in this particular case, this is like people are like, hey, I'm gonna like take a selfie in the White House or whatever. I honestly think a lot of that had more to do with just like clicks and views and stuff like that than
yeah, I
anything
mean,
else.
well, now you're mixing feeling and logic. You know, it's like if people feel that this is necessary, you know, like that's
No,
not
no, the
necessarily a,
feeling is the individual. The logic is your analysis of that situation.
well, I would say
So
the logic is how those people came to believe what they're believing. You know, like though that's where I see the difference in how it's not inconsistent logic as far as how you justify application of inciting uh insurrection or
well,
whatever.
okay, here let's flip it this way. What if people were performing an insurrection, let's say, um, based on a principle that you believe in? Is that okay?
Well,
The same exact thing, but it's now like I don't know, transplant some group or philosophy that you believe in. Is it okay?
is it the same philosophy
No,
only
no,
I'm
no, no.
believing it now?
It's your philosophy now doing the exact same thing because people feel strongly about it.
It still depends on what it is, though, the actual reason. Like
Well,
so like I saw, like I was all supportive of, um, the protests that happened after George Floyd, but there were things that people did during that I didn't necessarily agree with,
yeah,
their methods, right? But I agreed with why they were out there. So it's
sure,
like,
sure.
yeah, I can separate the two, but it's like I also don't have a problem with them like defending themselves against the police, you know. But
Well,
if they go picking on the police, like that's different, you know. So it's
or
like,
picking on people that had nothing to do with it, just like
yeah,
random people burning down businesses and stuff. Yeah, and that's the
I
thing.
mean,
It's like,
and even that's perspective, you know.
well, and that I totally agree.
Like there was a black business owner saw who was watching his business burn down on TV, and he said, "Let it burn. You know,
wow.
this is important." So not everyone was
But
like, "Oh my God, my business got burned down." There were
but
some
not
people that
every
actually understood the anger, you know.
not every black business owner would feel the same way. It's just a matter of like
Right.
where you stand on things and such. Like
Yeah, and
maybe the
that's my point. Like,
methodology you don't agree with, but the philosophy you do, or something like that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not so much about what you agree with, it's the logic behind the principle. It's
Yeah.
more of an issue with that. As far as logical consistency goes, those kinds of people, I've consistently been against their principles, and it just kind of came to a head. So in that aspect, I see consistency. In the aspect of what I consider to be like logical decision making, I still see consistency. But
Well,
if it's
it
like,
has more to.
oh, they feel differently than I do, and if it was something I felt I should do, that would somehow be inconsistent. But it's not, because that's
Well, I think we might kind of disagree on that in some way. Because to me, it's like it doesn't matter what it is that somebody their personal philosophy, their belief, or something. If you're okay with people performing an act based on their philosophy in one context, but not in another, because it's something you don't agree with, then that's inconsistency. Like it doesn't, because the thing is, all of this is feelings. Like the BLM stuff, the George Floyd stuff, it's all feelings. Like yes, there are logical arguments to be made, but a lot of it's feelings, and so is the stuff that happened in the 6th or 7th of January. Like it's just stuff that people feel, and people act out on
yeah.
it. So
I
it's like, if it's okay in this context, why is it not okay in that situation? And I'm speaking as a total outsider. I have no skin in the game. I'm apolitical. Like fuck it. Like I like none of this matters to me. I'm just looking from the outside and being like, I think it's all fucked, honestly.
so again, like I think intent is greater than impact, and so if you look at, I think it's a cognitive dissonance we have here. Like we're framing the question in different ways. You're looking like through this window at like their philosophy and their action, but I'm trying to look at like what built up to that philosophy. Like, yeah, people got out in the streets for George Floyd because they were angry and sad and pissed off and scared for their lives or whatever. That's the emotion that they were feeling. But what led up to that was constant injustice at the hands of police.
But here's the thing: the from my cursory analysis, the same people who were like surrounding the White House felt the same thing. So why is their feeling invalid, but the other feelings are valid?
Well,
Like,
what is it? Enlighten me as to what they were feeling that was akin to that. Like,
well, okay. From my understanding, and I'm definitely not, I don't fit into this camp, but my understanding of people who support Trump, they kind of like, there's a spectrum of things. Certainly, there's a lot of people in this particular case who felt like there was some kind of iffy, fishy stuff going on in an election, and that represents a cross section of those people. There's other people who are just supporters. There's other people who are like freedom people. Like I honestly don't care about Trump. I'm just like here for freedom and my guns and stuff like that. And maybe they had some kind of common ground in that regard. I don't know. The thing is, like, mob stuff happens. Like you get enough people together and crazy shit goes down.
yeah,
So like people who would otherwise sit down and have a civil conversation, if you get enough people together and they start yelling and they're in the streets and things, and somebody busts a window and cracks open a door, then everybody just goes nuts.
yeah.
And I kind of feel like that's exactly what happened there.
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, like there was so the difference I see is again what leads up to these things, and I just the reason I can actually point to this and say that the reason I think that philosophy was totally flawed in reasoning that, like, hey, let's like rush in there and stop this election from happening, is because it was built up by propaganda that has 100% been knocked down by 60 different judges. So you've got a
Well,
pretty big pool of diversity there. There's no evidence found, no evidence presented.
Sure, but like I said, it's a variety of different things. You know, what if there are people who are just like, hey, I just want to be free. Like, I don't care about the election. I just want to be free. And all this government stuff is bullshit. I think that's actually possible. And
are we talking like a hypothetical or like?
Well, I mean, just looking at it, you know, kind of analyzing it. I don't listen to the experts because I think that that's poisonous as far as like logic and reason. That you should use your own judgment and look at things objectively wherever you can. Like don't let anybody tell you what to think. Think for yourself. Except if somebody's, well, we already have gone down the think for yourself rabbit hole there. I mean, I don't know. I think it. Well, so okay.
I just fall back on data, I guess. Like I'm always looking at data. Yeah, there's no data to support that. There's plenty of data to support that there's something iffy going on with police. You know.
Well, exactly. But the thing is, a lot of this is still subjective, and different philosophies. Like there may have been different people there for different reasons. I don't think they all were a hive mind, like all thinking like election fraud or something because of propaganda from a tweet. There could be a lot of different people there. And
I mean, I would say that's certainly not the only reason. Sure.
But, yeah. Well, and that's my point. It's like, you know, maybe a bunch of people came together for a variety of reasons and because it always starts with somebody doing something dumb. And someone's like, I'm going to jump over this fence or open this gate. And then like, everybody's like, yeah. And all hell breaks loose. That kind of shit happens very easily because people are stupid. But I think, I mean, we could probably go on and on about like all the details about this particular thing. But I think what you had originally said before is a lot more deep. Like the justification for revolution and insurrection and changing things and stuff like that. Is it a just thing? Is it something we should be doing on a regular basis? And, you know, is the government just in and of itself and countering it in any way? Is that somehow, I guess, a crime or something wrong? Because the thing is, like, at least in the U.S., we vote for representatives. The entire system is based on that. It's based on the people deciding things that should, like, processes that should happen. I mean, I could go down the whole thing about, like, why I think it's probably a dumb idea because this country is too big for there to be one central, like, unified system. But what if there's corruption or something like that? I mean, how do you counter that? How do you even identify it?
Yeah. Well, there's two major things that play into that. History is written by the winners, and one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Yes.
So, however you mix those two outcomes, kind of shapes the whole narrative of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from a tertiary, you know, like outside looking in view. If you dig into it, you'll see a lot of differences and stuff. But, I would like to say that, you know, going back to the original topic or point or whatever, you know, I would like to say that I've always been kind of vocal about saying, hey, we need to burn it down and start over again. You know, like, but I mean, agree. That's like, you know, that's
burn it down is a metaphor.
Exactly.
Yeah. It doesn't actually mean like burning everything down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I totally agree.
It has more to do with like, just, you know, things aren't working and that, you know, like, again, how you phrase the question, right? Mm-hmm. If everybody from the left and the right or whatever just sat down and somebody said, "Do you think this is working?" They'd probably all agree. They'd
Yeah,
probably like,
yeah.
no, like, and for different reasons, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, it's not working for me because, like I'm struggling to get by or whatever. And then, oh, it's not working for me because I feel like I'm not represented. And, everybody's got their reasons, right?
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah. And that was baked into the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Like, that was kind of something that I think uh, was assumed that people would reset from time to time. And
right.
we haven't done that in a long time. So it keeps more and more elements are being injected into the system. And it's getting
Yeah.
more complex and more confusing and more corrupt and like all the but further distanced from the original philosophy, which was representation. Like,
Yeah.
people sitting up there making big ass decisions, they're supposed to be people that represent you. That and I could definitely say that probably 99% of those people don't represent any of us.
No. The whole system is just horrible. And yeah.
But yet people still participate and they still get like emotional about it. Like, oh, this matters. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. None of these people, it's an ivory tower. Nobody cares about you. No one knows about you. Like, all they're going for is numbers. And
It's a structure. It's a structure.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's a good structure. It's like if you're out in a storm right now, America is that cardboard box. It's going to provide some shelter from the rain, but it's
Mhm.
still going to be a shitty situation, right?
Well,
Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, and so the important thing, like, to me, I look at it and I think, okay, how can we come together and figure out a way to improve it? Like, how can we take this structure and make it better? Not to like beat down people that you don't like or people you disagree with or something, but how can we create something that like works for everybody? And honestly, I don't think we can. And that's where I feel like balkanization might actually be
I,
a better idea. Like,
I want to say it's not impossible though.
no,
Like,
no, that's true.
I feel like if uh, if thinkers like you and I
Yeah.
somehow got into the presidency or even in, pretty high up in the Senate or something, where you've got some sway in how the politics of the country work. If our philosophies could be communicated to people in a diplomatic and easy to understand way, um, with the explanation like, hey, we need to change like a lot of fundamental things about how we're doing things. It's
Yeah.
going to be bumpy at first. It's going to be a rough ride, but in the long run, it's going to be better. I mean, like the progression of a country should be more like the progression of the car from when we invented it to now, right? Like
Well,
it's
it's
not like we're
Kaizen.
building these. Yeah,
The
we're
thing
not
is,
building
like,
these
it's
on a Model T
Kaizen,
chassis.
it's engineering, constant continuous improvement, little tiny changes, not big broad brush strokes. You see a problem, you fix that problem, then you move on to the next, and
But I'm saying at some
things like
point you
that.
do have to make those broad brush strokes, right? And
Well,
we're painting over dirt, whereas like if you're like, oh, this chassis can't support the horsepower we have available now, well, you just have an entire new chassis or whatever, right?
yeah,
But we're
okay,
like
so
we're taking a Model T and we're building on top of it. Like it's like a roof with like 7 layers of shingles. It's like, dude, just start
well,
over.
yeah, we're basically layering a F40 over the top of Model T or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that, yeah, that is a little bit um, problematic in that regard. Oh man, there's so many thoughts here. Um, man, oh
I guess this is like a really long roundabout way to say like I don't necessarily have a problem with the act of moving on the government, right?
yeah,
It's just about like the way it played out. bugs me. That's all.
Sure.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like with revolution, it really depends on who the revolutionaries are and what their philosophy is. Um, and I think in certain countries where people are more homogenous, you could affect change much easier. But in a country like the U.S., where it's like basically every person has their own philosophy, there is no like one United States North American philosophy or anything. Oh, sorry about the Canadians. But there's no like standardized philosophy across the board. And so that's my point, is like catering to all that. How do you create a system that allows people with this philosophy to get along with people with that philosophy?
Yeah.
Even if their philosophies are totally at odds with each other. You
Yeah.
know?
So I'm a fan of democracy, but I will openly admit that the biggest flaw I see with democracy is things like sticking in like super majorities, right? Like try to
Well,
think about how many things like in existence you can find 66% of people that agree on it. Like
well,
really.
what's the saying? A democracy is two wolves and a sheep sitting down to vote on what's for dinner. Um, like, I, it is important to get input from other people, but that input shouldn't be the end all be all of everything. Like, oh, well, people decided, therefore you die. Um,
I mean, it's a numbers game though. Like when you're talking about three players, right? Two sheep and a wolf, it's pretty clear how that would go. But if
mhm.
you had like 300 wolves and like 200 sheep or something, you never know what the outcome would be, right? Like when
Well,
you increase your sample to a certain point, like you once you cross the threshold of like I think I heard it said once, like statistically speaking, a sample size of 30 is big enough for pretty much anything. At least, like with you know your confidence level is going to change, right? But
yeah.
you know
Now, here's the thing. Like, I don't, my own personal philosophy, I don't need anybody to lead me. I don't need anybody to tell me how to live. I'm going to live the way I want to in my own way. I'm content, and I'm capable, as much as I can be. Um, but I like, so I don't understand that idea that you have to have some kind of boss telling you like what to do all the time in your daily life. Um, kind of,
I mean
I don't know.
I understand the sentiment behind that philosophy, and I share some of it, of course, but like thinking about a large collection of people such as 300 plus million, right?
Yeah.
um, with
Well, I mean,
everyone.
okay, we should be looking at the Earth. Actually, it's like billions of people. I
Yeah,
don't
but
give two shits about this country. Like, fuck it. It doesn't matter. Like, we're a bunch of people sitting on this
sure, all
dirt
right,
ball.
either way you cut it, because of the law of large numbers or whatever, it's really not going to be any different. It's not going to function well. Like people have different capabilities. There's you can't do everything yourself. Like you know how to do a lot of stuff, but there's going to be something crucial to survival that maybe you're not cut out to
Well,
do.
okay, yes, that is true, and that's where you trade my skills for your skills, right? I don't need some overlord who doesn't have any skills dictating to both of us how we should trade our skills or what we should be doing.
Do you
That's the
see
problem I have with that.
do you see the act of pulling a lot of strings as a skill though? Like I'm seeing
Yes.
as a project manager that there's like a real talent to kind of overseeing the activity of a lot of different things without trying to get too bogged down in the details of each thing, right?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. I think that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean something like that, like when you have a complicated project, right? You have to have a lot of people working together,
But
and
why do
there's going to
we?
be differences between those people that, if you want to get anything done, have to be mitigated some way.
Okay, so but then why are those people who are the chosen ones, to do those things, not experts in their field? They're,
That's a problem independent of
well,
having authority, right?
but
Like,
what is authority too? I mean, we should probably go
yeah,
into
but I
that
mean,
too.
like, if we had a leader that was competent,
But do
and
we even need a
you're
leader?
feeling confident, is that
Yeah.
any better than my feeling
The thing is,
confident?
like, do we even need a leader? Like, why do I need a leader? Like,
I don't know about
I'm
a
fine.
singular leader, but I think there has to be, guidance and,
Yes, but not
kind of checks
authority.
and balances. Checks and balances on
Uh,
society. Not
well,
even within the government itself. Like, that's important too, but there needs to be another check and balance between, and I've said this a lot too, like, we need to have a way to keep police accountable. We need to have a way to keep our government accountable. We have to have some kind of
well,
pull,
but
and
if you make them authoritarian, you don't have any accountability. Suddenly, they're your overlord.
well, technically, well, what we're trying to avoid is becoming, actual quote unquote authoritarian,
Well, yeah, and that
because it's really not that way yet. But
yet. Well, in the U.S. at least. I mean, it depends on where you live. There are places where that exists. Um, oh man, oh, this is actually like a really good conversation. Oh, it-
well, okay, let's take a bit of a left turn here, and not like political left. Um, Another thing that kind of happened as a result of this whole insurrection thing, like, are you having trouble maintaining an insurrection? Well, call.
I knew there was going to be something like that. Yeah.
um, I
Yeah.
it just, I had to say it. Um, as a result of what Trump said on Twitter that incited all of this, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they all banned Trump. And there are people that are getting all up in arms about uh, private companies choosing to block this particular person.
Ooh,
What are your thoughts on that?
and it's not just Trump that they banned or shut down or blocked or something like that. It's kind of a lot of people.
Yeah, but I
That's a
mean,
whole different tangent that we should
the,
probably avoid.
no,
Um,
the point I'm trying to focus on is, like, should private companies be allowed to do whatever they want to do
yeah.
and ban whoever they want to ban?
Well, yeah, yeah, they
That's the
should.
disagreement that I'm seeing, and
Yeah,
I'm like, I
okay.
thought this was pretty cut and dry when they were arguing about, gay cakes or whatever.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with private companies doing whatever they want. You're free to do that. You know, whatever. Obviously, people are like, "Wow, my First Amendment" and stuff. Well, that only applies to the government. It doesn't apply to companies or individuals or anything like that. However, it's really important to maintain the spirit of free speech. So it
Yeah,
does trouble me a little bit that because I feel like all the Alex Joneses and stuff like that, they should be allowed to talk,
well,
because
here's the
the
thing.
more they talk, like you can actually have like open discourse with those people at
Yeah,
the
but here's the thing. Trump can go make a new Donald J. Trump at Gmail or whatever and get right back on Twitter if he wanted to. Sure, he won't have the same followers. He'll basically have to rebuild his following. But it's like they'll never really actually silence you if what you're saying and your fan base is big enough. Like, I'm confident Trump will be back on Twitter.
Well, sure, but the problem that I see with that is it's like kind of a forced formation of a cult, not a cult, but a cult. That, if you just have like a random guy on the internet talking about things openly, maybe it's a little bit controversial. People are free to converse and stuff like that, but if you push that person into the shadows, then it's an echo chamber, and like only the followers, the true believers, are going to subscribe to that, and it's only going to reinforce the same philosophy with no changes. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
does that even make any sense though?
Yeah, it's fine to disagree. Like, I've been banned from stuff before and thought, oh, this is bullshit. Like, I'm fine with that.
And
right?
ideology.
If you think it, if you have a personal problem with the private business making that decision, like, that's one thing. But to go and say, like, try to claim that it's a violation of the First Amendment. Like, I heard some dude trying to justify things like Facebook and Twitter as government operations. And I was like,
no, I mean, like, maybe people have been reading a little bit too much into the stuff that Snowden published, but they're not quite that thing.
That was just like one particular argument that I saw that I thought was like a lot of a stretch, because he was saying, like, because some governments utilize it for town halls or whatever, it automatically has to be beholden to what the government is. And I was like, are you kidding me?
yeah, that's a huge problem.
Yeah, like, there's so many flaws with that. But anyway.
Oh, man.
I don't know that that's a popular opinion, but it was one I saw that was kind of amusing.
Definitely. I mean, the thing is, like, private businesses can do whatever they want. If you want to turn people away from your business, you're free to do that. But, you might have to suffer the societal or economic consequences for that.
But what are their consequences? They make money from advertising. They're all free platforms.
But if they kick like millions of people off of their platform, that's lost ad revenue. So, I mean, that's kind of like, why would you shoot yourself in the foot at that point?
Well, I mean, that's a little slippery slope, though. Like, we're just talking about like a few people get, but percentile.
But you just said Donald Trump. Like, what did he? How many followers did he have on, like?
Well, you said if they ban like 1 million people or whatever, but so that's like how many people are on Twitter, not how many people Trump had following him.
Yeah,
like, those are two different things there.
Mm-hmm.
If you banned 1 million people, you probably wouldn't have the same ad audience, right? You ban 1 or 2 or 3 people, whether they have millions of followers or not, doesn't really change your ad revenue, is what I'm saying.
Well, my point was, like, if they shut down a popular poster on a particular site, they wouldn't get that ad revenue, like, by the millions.
I mean, it would get filled by something else, I'm sure.
Maybe, yeah.
And I mean, that's possible. That's kind of that kind of ties into the whole, like, big business versus little business thing. It's like a big business can afford to do shit like that. If it were a little business, your argument would be very on point, because, like, losing one customer, you and I know this, there are razor thin margins in operating
yeah.
a small business, and you lose one avenue of income. It's brown
It's a big
trousers
deal. Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
like,
and that's the thing is like people keep arguing the First Amendment kind of stuff. It's like, well,
yeah,
here's the thing. I know it's a constitutional thing, and it's aimed at the government, but it's also a human thing. It's something that was built on concepts of human interaction, um, and they're principles that like really everybody should be adhering to some extent, especially free speech. That's kind of like a big deal. Like I honestly think that. Um, yes, you don't have to legally adhere to it, but you probably should because um, humanity and it's kind of a good idea. Um, yeah,
see, here's the thing about the anarchist philosophy that I don't get. If you think that people, and listen to my words carefully, if you think that people should act a certain way, that right there, people should act a certain way, builds in this, automatic opinion about how others should be operating, right? When you have that opinion and that grows and that aligns with other opinions, this coalesces into where we are today, really.
well,
Like
I
what
don't
you're
here.
describing
Okay,
is really just like the beginning of society, more or less, right?
well, I don't believe that anybody should be doing anything. Um, just let's put that on the record. I don't think anybody should be doing anything. Um, live your life, get along, don't use force. Initiation of force can never be justified. Um, that kind of thing. Um, and I don't know. Like I I constantly say I'm a fucking idiot. Like I don't know anything. I don't know the right way to do things. I'll defer to people who do know things. And yeah, oh man.
Yeah, people aren't open to the idea of being wrong. Like,
That's a huge problem. Yeah.
yeah, it's like it is difficult, right? Like to be self-critical, but if you take a like an objective look at certain things, like I think what you're trying to drive at is there's like certain ingrained ideals that humans have, like this is how we should interact in order to maintain peace, right? Like I think there are visceral drives
Yeah.
that kind of unite us in that way as a species, and that's
Yeah.
probably present in all species, really.
I
It's
I
just
would like
it,
to think so.
yeah, like social interaction. I mean, I took sociology over 20 years ago, but the one thing I still remember is that like social interaction is well, I guess now I forgot it. The 20-year delineation, just the expiration date hit right then.
Poof, it's gone.
I guess I'm just trying to say that like societies have to learn how to get together and get
Yeah, well,
along,
and I
cohabitate, right?
agree. Like, but then what is a society? And why does there
I don't
have to
remember
be
that.
a leader?
And
Why does there have to be somebody in charge? Right? Like, why can't it just organically evolve the way that it evolves? Um, oh man, this is
I mean, if you want it to be stuck in a constant state of flux where like things start sprouting up that are government-ish, and then the rest of the anarchists kind of like tear it down because they happen to agree that that needs to be torn down, and then it pops up somewhere
Well,
else.
but here's the thing: like, if it works, like people are going to keep going to it. People keep bitching about Amazon, but yet Amazon has had record sales
Mhm.
in this last year. Like everybody hates Amazon, but why the fuck are you buying from them?
Yeah,
Me, I don't buy from Amazon. I buy from eBay, but I'm a weirdo. Um,
I have a sour taste in my mouth from PayPal, so they're like,
it's changed. It's a lot better, by the way.
yeah, like I'm a full-on hypocrite. Like I think Amazon and Elon Musk and all that, so it's like a bunch of jackholes, but I still buy shit from them. So.
Well, I mean, speaking of
But I mean,
Elon Musk,
boycotting
like,
something that big is absolutely useless.
well, Elon Musk, like SpaceX and stuff like that, that's fucking cool. Like,
That would have happened without him. They would have just found another investor. Like
well,
he's not the brains. He's just the
no,
money.
no, he's not. And people are like, that's an important point, actually, that like he's not the genius behind the scenes. Like he's just a financer.
Yeah,
And he has people.
Yeah, these are things that are natural progressions in human society, right?
Yeah.
Like these are things we were like, oh, we went to the moon. Well, why does it have to be NASA? Like, of course we were going to get to that point. So.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that. Whew. Wow.
Well, there's like another avenue about the whole insurrection thing at the Capitol that I have a thought about, and it's another one of our core categories of topics is a conspiracy theory. Yeah. Right. So
all right, I'm open. Yes.
So I'm wondering if so like this insurrection happened, and like me, there's a lot of people that kind of find it like almost silly, like the reasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you keep calling it an insurrection, but it's like just a bunch of fuckers that like busted one pane of glass and like opened a door and took
again, it's about intent, but that's why I made the joke. Like, are you having trouble maintaining an insurrection? Like it fell flat on its face. But like the point I'm trying to get at, like from a conspiracy theory angle, is do you think they made the act of rising against the government look so ridiculous that people would be embarrassed to do it for an actual real reason? like a
man, like what if shit was real?
Yeah. Now we've got this precedent that rising against your government is some stupid redneck hick bullshit.
Ooh. Wow. Oh man.
Like that could have been, I mean, there's already kind of like a lot of markers, like off the bat. I was like, this feels staged.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
Yeah.
And the important thing is to, like, again, take whatever you feel and transplant that into the opposition. Yeah. And if you feel differently, then there's some kind of fishiness going on right there. Yes,
we talk about this, and I think about this a lot, like the idea of starting a new government and stuff. And this is one avenue that would happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, whatever your feelings on it may be, like this country was founded on much bloodier than that. So,
yes,
like that's just an avenue in which great things can blossom. However tragic the origin may be, as our own was, great things came from it, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought on that.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. Like, okay, wait. No, maybe I might be losing my train of thought too.
Yeah.
Oh,
getting
man.
down to the bottom of this beer can here.
Yeah. No, everything you said made sense. And oh, man. Wow.
Yeah, I found it odd that it actually boiled over that, and it smelled fishy to me, and I started thinking like, why? So I was like, this looks staged, but why would somebody stage it like this late in the game? I mean, I know they're trying to like impeach him a second time and stuff, but they're not gonna move fast enough to actually remove him from office because he'll already have been gone. Um,
Well, and the whole focus on Trump himself is kind of a red herring, I guess.
yeah, I mean, like
From my own perception, I guess.
yeah, to me, it feels built in a way, and I don't want to sound like a tinfoil hat guy or whatever. It just feels
It's
built
aluminum
in a
foil
way.
nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it's a way to sway our feelings on the act of rising up against the government. Because again, it goes back to your saying, like one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely like define that as terrorism as we have it defined,
Yeah.
using terror or fear to bring about political change. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrorism, right? Okay, fine. Like of all the things they call terrorism, this is actually it. But yeah, it just felt a little strange to me.
You're not alone.
Like thinking like a chess player, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, a couple moves ahead, we might actually want to be tearing down the government and starting over. Now it looks ridiculous.
Well, that's a good
Don't
point
bell bottom.
because maybe the powers that be don't want that to happen. They don't want people to see things for what they are and rise up and tear things down and burn down the White House or something like that. Maybe they don't want that to happen because they like this propaganda, controlling people, ivory tower stuff. I mean, everybody, all the politicians that come in, they come in with very little money and they leave billionaires. How is that possible?
Really?
Totally billionaires. Yeah.
$1 billion.
$1 million. Well, and that's a question people should be asking themselves. But here's the thing. I feel like the powers that be don't want people who might on the surface seem at odds with each other to get along. They don't want people to work together because if that ever happens, they're going to lose everything they have. They're going to lose all that control. And they definitely don't want that.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's like, but so it's important to, again, keep in mind, like, I'm a total outsider. Like, I don't give a shit about any of your shit. But from what I've seen, it's like, it seems like there's this drive to pit people against each other. Yeah. Different philosophies and stuff like that, like make everybody infight. As a avid Doom player, you run around the map and you get the imps to fight the chain gunners, and everybody starts shooting each other, and like pretty soon everybody's dead, and you could just like run rampant across the map.
And then all of a sudden it's 4 a.m. and the birds are singing.
That was Half-Life, but close enough. A natural evolution of that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like, I think that is a tool used by people to control people. I don't know. I do like a little bit of conspiracy theory, but I don't know. I do
get the vibe that, like, I don't know if, I've selected the correct motive or anything, but I do feel like there was something staged
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
Not all the actors were necessarily in on the ploy, right? But they
I
were,
felt the same way. Yeah.
yeah, like there's definitely a cult of personality power
Mm-hmm.
over people, and it's
Yeah.
super easy to like use it to mask or obfuscate just like a, an ulterior motive. I don't know.
Yeah. I I agree. I totally agree with that.
Like
Yeah.
conspiracy theories are like a razor thin fence that you ride, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Hmm.
like it's the thinnest part of the path, you know, because they do tend to be plausible, however improbable they may be. Um,
Yeah.
and it's like it's not impossible. So every so often, a conspiracy theory is probably true. And I mean,
Yeah.
I actually think that of like the JFK thing, you know, like
Oh, damn. Oh, man. We should totally talk about that sometime.
yeah.
Oh, man. My mom was like all about that. Oh,
Oh wow.
yeah. She instilled in me like a
Too
deep
bad we can't have
appreciation
her
for
on the
that.
show. Rest in
Yeah.
peace. That would have
See
been
you
pretty
later, mom.
cool to have your mom on to talk about JFK.
Oh, she had like notebooks of like news articles and all kinds of stuff. Like, oh, she was like really hardcore into that.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
but I mean like yeah, most conspiracy theories are pretty silly, but like
That's true.
every now and then something makes sense. You know,
Yeah.
there's looking at a little
Well,
closer.
and I always say, like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy researcher.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you know, I I dig that stuff and it's really interesting. And if somebody calls something into question, I want to know what's going on. Um,
yeah. I mean,
and I honestly, I would like to prove it all false. That's the goal.
yeah,
Um,
I, yeah. I mean,
because I don't
anything,
think there's any kind of like alien lizard people or any of that shit like that. That's not a thing.
but there may
But
be aliens.
maybe it could happen. It's possible.
Yeah,
I don't discount the possibility of that.
I mean that's the
Um,
point I'm trying to make. Is like, yeah, every now and then it could happen, right?
yeah.
But you
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
know,
And the thing is, like, there are people who want to control people out there. Um, Not everybody who is a quote leader is a good person or an expert. Like, a lot of them actually are not good people, um, and they are not to be trusted. Um, but if you question those things and are like, wait a minute, something doesn't add up, all of a sudden the propaganda wing comes in and swoops you up, and you're some kind of conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat wearing person. Like, the thing is, like, uh, the important thing to note is what everybody wants. Like, what's the end game? Like, what are your goals? Do you have an altruistic goal or something like that? And I think if you do, most people can get behind you. Maybe they may not agree with the methodology or the philosophy or something like that, um, but they'll agree with some aspect of it.
what
Yeah.
what is your definition? Like, well, let me rephrase that. How would you define propaganda?
Ooh. Oh man.
I feel like those are two different questions. Just everything.
It kind of was. Um, Propaganda is like mind control. Like it's essentially a form of um, sounding official. Oh man, I'm gonna have to do a minute microscopy on that. Actually,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
uh,
I wanted to see if we thought about it in the same way, and I think we do.
yeah,
Like maybe I can articulate it in a different way. It's more like taking things like creating the conspiracy theory, right? Like I was
hmm
saying, um, you know, these are always plausible, right? So
hmm
you plant information that is believable but not necessarily true in order to steer thinking, not
yeah,
necessarily sway it or control it or anything, but you're steering it, right? Um, and yeah, and you know, plenty of people are immune to it and can see it happening, but nobody's listening. They're like, no, this is definitely real. And then they fall into that mental pattern where they can be fooled more easily
well,
by
exactly.
flimsier data. And I mean, this is what we've been seeing, right? Over the
Well, it's
last,
kind of a lot like a cult. Um, Same kind of thing that you have some authoritative source that's telling you the
Mhm.
truth, right? Um, and you're more inclined to believe it. The more emphatic the statement is, the more inclined you are to believe it. The more outlandish it seems, the more inclined you are to believe it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it's like uh, the Sagan principle, like extraordinary proof or extraordinary uh,
Claims require
claims require
extraordinary.
extraordinary proof. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like
Oh,
you,
yeah. And
the more
propaganda's,
the more outlandish it seems, the more skeptical you should be.
yeah, propaganda's a long-term game.
Oh
You
yeah,
can't really like achieve anything in short term with propaganda because you have to build up that like conditioning. And so that tells you right there, like it's not Trump pulling the strings, it's someone pulling Trump's string.
oh yeah. Oh,
Because this
I
was,
absolutely believe that. Yeah.
yeah, like this was pre-Trump. It had to be like the buildup of that, you know, uh, skepticism of democracy and of
hmm
like yeah, it's really all just a long game to like drive us into thinking a certain way and then throwing a match on it to see if it ignites.
Hmm.
And this last time it did, like,
Yeah.
oh, now we finally have the fuel to kick this off. So
Yeah.
it's like that's
Oh yeah, you could plan people's emotions all day long to get them to do whatever you want and react however they want. Um, the, man, wow, that's we might get demonetized because I'm gonna feel we've touched off a powder keg there, um, which is a good thing. But
all of a sudden like we don't show up in searches.
oh man,
when you
yeah.
start
Oh
when you
man,
start typing our channel name kitchen sink, some song by 21 Pilots always comes up. Do you see that too?
yeah.
I think they have a song called Kitchen Sink or something. I don't know.
oh man. Oh, this is really good.
Mhm.
I feel like
Like we barely really talked about like the details of the insurrection that just happened, but like
yeah.
the core, like where it came from, right? Like
Yeah.
the philosophies behind it, the psychology behind it, the sociology behind it. We
hmm
kind of dove into all of that, including conspiracy theories.
Oh yeah, this is actually really, really good, and I feel like we've kind of left a lot of stones unturned, shall we
Yeah,
say?
yeah.
Um,
There's a few digressions we could have made there.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's okay. Like, if you feel like we haven't addressed your own personal gripes or uh, interests, like throw it down in the comment section. Talk
Oh
about
man,
it.
like going forward for current events like this, we probably should just do a live stream now that we can do that,
Oh yeah.
because that would get pretty interesting having a lot of different input
Mm-hmm.
on what's happening right now, because that's like fresh on people's minds. It's in their face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Am I just like constantly vaping back there?
Oh yeah, like yeah, like when I watch the show with people, they're like, "Wow, that vape's like glued to his hand." Yeah, you're just now seeing it like in the background.
Well, yeah. Oh man.
You got
Uh,
a problem, man. You got vape lung.
mm. Got vape lung. It's not COVID, I'm telling you. Oh man.
You should, when anytime you cough in public, you should be like, vape lung, not COVID.
Oh man. Oh, this is so good. Well, Jesus. Wow, this is a very complex topic, which I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of. Um,
Got a few more episodes out of this one, I'm sure.
yeah, I think we're gonna have to come back. We'll circle back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good conversation, like a very good topic. Yeah, don't look at the vape stuff.
Or how many beers I've had.
Or me. These aren't the droids you need. Move along. Oh, these aren't the droids you're looking for. Okay, well, whatever.
The droids I need.
That should totally be an album. Oh man. Oh man. Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's getting late.
That's enough beer.
Yeah. Well, if you stuck it out, thanks for deep sink diving with us, everybody.
Oh yeah. That's our outro motto. I almost forgot
Yeah.
that. I was just gonna be like, see ya, suckers.
I think this might be just about all the time we have today.
What are you trying to say, mate? You said pished.
You said pished. Mm. A white hole.
What is it?
No one's ever seen it before.
If you get that, subscribe right now, because
Yeah.
you're our kind of people. All right.
Oh, totally. Oh man.
We've rambled on long enough. Thanks for deep sink diving.
Yes, I think it's enough.
Um,
Oh wait, nobody knows the context of that. Like why the
let them figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Movie trailers. Okay. Well, have a good night, everybody. See you later.